Hi Matt, it's been a little while since we've been able to catch up with you on the website. Obviously, since your last fight with Craig Watson, obviously a few things have changed since then. You've moved camp, you're over here in Stalybridge with Bobby Rimmer's gym. First, I suppose the question that people will ask is, you left Billy. What was the reasons for that, and how do you approach it, etc.
Yeah, it was it was a funny one really, because I'd made the decision to leave Billy's gym even before the last fight. The majority of my work was being done with Lee Beard really, the pad work, etc. But Lee wasn't, even though Lee was doing a lot of the hard work, the graft with the pad work, etc. He wasn't really given a chance to put his input over his own ideas. So I decided before the last fight, that I was. I've been very impressed with Lee over the last couple of years. The odd time I have spoke to him, not only as you've seen Craig is, he's absolutely first class on the pads. He's one of the best padmen I've ever seen really, and I've been in a lot of gyms. But he's very knowledgeable about the sport as well, and he had his own ideas which I was interested in. But he wasn't, even though he was doing the pad work, he wasn't really allowed to express them ideas. So I decided before my last fight that'd be my last fight with Billy. I didn't fall out with Billy. When I decided to leave the gym. I spoke to Kerry first, because Kerry over the last 2-3 years, maybe more, that I've been working with Kerry. Kerry's put a lot of time and effort into me, and I'm so grateful to Kerry really, because he's taught me so much, made me a lot stronger, the nutritional side of the game, general strength work, and he's put a lot of time and effort into me. And I suppose really that's why I stayed at the gym as long as I did, because I could feel myself getting fitter, stronger, getting bigger at the weight. So that was one of the reasons why I stayed at the gym for so long. But a lot of the time, I was training in the gym on my own, practically training myself really. So I'd made my mind up that the time was right to leave. And since I've left, I've been working with Lee a hell of a lot. Been spending a lot of, even though we've only been training a month, it's one-on-one now. He's putting all his time and effort into me. And I'm learning new things. I can't remember the last time I learned something new, and that's what any sport's all about. You should be learning all the time, and that's what I'm doing now, and I'm finding I'm really enjoying it. In this fantastic gym. The gym, as you've seen, Craig, it's a busy gym, a lot of young, ambitious fighters about, and I'm enjoying it again. And I think when you're enjoying something, not just in boxing, in life, it brings the best out of you, and I'm certainly enjoying it again.
So going back to Kerry then, how's that going to work? Are you still, has Kerry sort of taught you everything really you need to know now, and you're able to just have him on the other end of the phone for advice, or is he going to be working with you, still doing weights, or how's it going to work?
Yeah, Kerry's, I'm still going to be working with Kerry. Kerry's taught me a hell of a lot, about the strength side of it and the nutrition, but I wouldn't say I'm an expert by any stretch of the imagination. So, when I spoke to Kerry, and told Kerry I was leaving the gym, me and Kerry are very good friends. We've been together a lot of days in the gym, and we go out for a drink together. I phone Kerry up, 2 or 3 times a week. He's a great guy. I can't speak highly enough about Kerry. And Kerry said, it changes absolutely nothing between me and him. I'm going to continue taking his products. I'm going to work with him wherever I can. So Kerry's still a part of the team, definitely, and I speak to Kerry 2 or 3 times a week.
Just going back to, you obviously mentioned you're working now with Lee, quite a lot of internet sites are questioning Lee, in terms of, mainly because he's been linked with working full-time with your brother, and one of the things that they're obviously questioning with Lee is his experience. But as you sort of alluded to earlier, I've seen him work, certainly from the outside as a padsman, he's brilliant, and he seems to have a lot of ideas that he wants to pass on. But what specifically is it that's impressed you?
I think Lee, even though Lee spent a lot of the time in the amateur game, Lee will be the first person to say Lee's a boxing anorak, He travels, he spends a lot of time in America, visiting all the gyms, picking bits up from all different kinds of gyms. And from the first few times that I spoke to Lee, I knew he was very knowledgeable about boxing. I wouldn't have anyone in my corner who I didn't think was up to the job. And I've worked with, well, not worked with, but, spent a lot of time in different gyms, listening to different coaches. And if Lee wasn't up to the job, there's no way he'd be going in my corner. But I've been so impressed with Lee. People, the fact that he is very inexperienced, is true. But you know, I'm quite experienced in boxing. Rick is very, very experienced in boxing. And again, Ricky wouldn't have anyone who he didn't think was up to the job. So obviously he's been very impressed with Lee. And he doesn't have the experience, you know what I mean? But I'm sure Lee's more than up to the job, definitely. And I'm really enjoying working him. And I think he's definitely up to the job. That's not in any question, you know. Like you say, he doesn't have the experience, but he's. I think he'd definitely be up to the job.
You're saying you've sort of learned quite a few things. Anything particular new that you're working on that you know that people will maybe see a slight change in the way Matthew Hatton fights?
Yeah, you know, I was very stiff in my last fight. You know, I've only watched my last fight once because I can't bring myself to watch it. Really, it's like watching fucking Frankenstein or something like that. I was so stiff, you know. It wasn't me in there that night, and
people have suggested that you maybe, you know, big stage and you froze. Did you feel that yourself, or you just couldn't get going?
No, not at all. No, I was physically in great condition for that fight. You know, very fit. You know, ideally, I think going into the fight, maybe mentally wasn't quite right. I'd had in my head about leaving the gym and moving on. So, you know, I'm not putting anything against Billy, but you know, Billy didn't really do any work with me leading up to that fight, and then, you know, Billy was in the corner giving me advice during the fight. You know, I'm not saying he gave me the wrong advice or anything like that, but he'd not spent the time with me in the preparation up to the fight. But the defeat lies solely at my hands, really. Yeah. It was a bad performance. It's so frustrating when I've been improving so much as well, been improving, and just, you know, produced one of the worst performances in my career on the biggest night. But I know I didn't freeze or anything like that. I think it was just one of them nights. You know, mentally I wasn't quite there. I started the fight badly, and after 4, maybe 5 rounds, I thought, you know, I'm behind here. And then when I tried to, you know, sort of like sleepwalking for them first few rounds, and then when I tried to up it again and lift it again, you know, I couldn't. I was just already in a rut in that fight. So I can't really watch it really, but I've just got to learn from that. You know, it's so frustrating to watch, but I've got to learn from that. I have learned from that fight. I'm working on being, you know, a lot looser, you know, throwing a lot more shots, you know, committing myself, taking more chances. So it's not in question. People will see it, you know, a different Matthew Hatton. You know, some of the old stuff. I've always had a good defence. You know, I'm very fit, you know, strong, determined. But I didn't take enough chances in that last fight, and I got myself into it. But I started the fight badly, and when it come to try and lift myself, I couldn't.
I know you're not the type of lad to obviously take anything away from Watson's win, and I'm not suggesting that you know, it wasn't him that won the fight rather than you losing it. But was he better than you thought, or was it just a case of you thought you didn't apply yourself in the way that you know you can?
No, Craig, but you know, I'm not taking anything away from Craig. Craig boxed a good fight that night, but he couldn't have caught me on a worse night, really. You know, Craig won. You know, the decision's not in any doubt. Craig won that fight comfortable, you know what I mean? That's not in, I'm not questioning that at all, but, you know, Craig was the better fighter that night, but he's not a better fighter than me, full stop. You know, I feel if I met Craig, you know, in 4 or 5 weeks' time, the outcome would be very different. But, you know, fair play to him, he boxed a good fight on the night, but he did get me on the bad night.
Yeah.